When does Gintama get good? It gets good during the Benizakura arc, episode 58 to 61. Now, to be real, the cynic in me really instead wanted to say, you should probably go and decide for yourself. But that's not really persuasive, so let me elaborate. Several concerns right off the bat. 1. Was my statement at the beginning absolute? Absolutely not. That said, the Benizakura arc is the point where I grew to genuinely like Gintama, because it's a stage where you can finally get a good glimpse of what the show truly has to offer. In a typical long-running show, there are generally two components which are covered in a story arc, the self-enclosed narrative and the meta-overarching one. In a vacuum, the Benizakura arc tells a story about a manslayer on the loose, who's presumed to have stolen the revered sword of Benizakura. Gintoki is then tasked to retrieve back the stolen sword in order to prevent further casualties. In the meanwhile, the swordsmith is forced to confront the repercussions of their own creation. In earlier episodes, the narratives are mostly kept independent from one another. These earlier episodes serve to showcase the aftermath of the Yamato invasion, while also introducing us to the huge cast of the show. But we are seldomly given any context of what exactly unfolded during the invasion itself. And since the story arcs are mostly isolated from one another, you usually head into an episode without knowing what to expect, which makes it understandably hard to be invested in the show at this stage. The Benizakura arc is the first time where Sorachi not only introduces, but also fleshes out some form of overarching plot point, and is also one of the few times where the show presents itself in a more somber tone, as we are finally given a sneak peek of what went about during the Yamato invasion. Up to this arc, all we know is that Gintoki was apparently heavily involved in the Joey War. But there's still a huge disconnect of how Gintoki is portrayed in the past and to his present listless self. In content marketing terms, this is called a curiosity gap, where you're left wondering as to how Gintoki ended up the way he is, and the only way to connect the dots here is to keep on watching. The exact efficacy of this is debatable, but after finishing the arc, it left me with more questions than it gave me answers to, which is also exactly why I think that it's a good litmus test to gauge your personal future enjoyment. The plot hooks worked for me and I got reeled into the rest of the show. I mean, there's no way I'm the only one who got hyped up beyond the stratosphere when, spoilers alert for episode 209, skip to here to avoid spoilers. They dropped that Shiroyasha movie trailer, which showed the Joey War and how the four heavenly kings all interacted with one another, only for the anime itself to blue ball me like that. Jeez, what a tease. I was genuinely upset at that point. Anyway, the second concern regarding my initial assertion is, Jesus Christ, 58 episodes in? That's a lot of episodes. And you'd be right. That's almost 5 full seasons of anime. 5 cours roughly equates to 1.25 years of weekly anime, which is very demanding. Now I understand that that may be an instant turnoff for some people, but bear with me for a moment. You should have probably noticed the conspicuous asterisk I put at the beginning of the video. For that statement to have any semblance of truth, experiencing the prior 57 episodes is a requirement. Double whammy! Okay, you should probably skip episodes 1 and 2 since they're non-canon and only serve to commemorate the production of the anime. But in general, excessive skipping is inadvisable. Now you may be asking, why? One of the things I love about Gintama is the presentation of what's at stake. Quite often, you see in most shows that the stakes are often presented in a clear-cut manner, which I find cheapens the effect quite a bit. The life of a nakama, the well-being of a nation, or the fate of the entire world. All these things are also present in Gintama, but one of the biggest thematic ideas of the show is protecting what you hold dear. At face value, this comes across as vague and nebulous, uninspired even. But in order to get a grasp of what Gintoki strives so hard to fight for, experiencing these first initial episodes is essential to comprehend the status quo of its world, and in doing so, shedding more light towards that previously abstract concept. Leading up to the Benizakura arc, we are shown time and time again how each individual side character fulfills their unique niche in Gintama's world. How Gengai is your local mechanic, how Hasegawa is your local Madao, and how Katsura is your local neighborhood terrorist. There is a sense of intimacy that's being developed here, where every single townspeople of Edo has their own personal things that they're determined to protect. And for Gintoki, that sense of normalcy is the very thing that he holds precious. And this arc provides a glimpse of this side of him which we rarely get to see up to this point. And the emotional impact of this gets even better with context from later on episodes. This is why I think you should refrain from excessively skipping episodes when watching Gintama. Now I must confess that there is another underlying, shall I say, insidious motive for me to suggest that the Benizakura arc is a good cutoff point. I'd reckon that anyone who does end up reaching the 58th episode mark would fall under the point of no return, because by that stage, they would have put more than 21 hours of their life into the show. I'm pretty sure anyone that reached that point would feel less inclined to cut their losses and drop the show. Of course, one of the biggest variables to all of this, which I'd argue is even more detrimental than your own personal taste, is how you consume media. Whether you binge or spread the episodes apart, whether you're watching it by yourself or with other people, whether you put your undivided attention to it or just simply play it in the background while doing other stuff. Now, I acknowledge that the direction of causality here is a bit ambiguous, as in, does how you consume media affect your overall enjoyment, or is it the other way around? Regardless, I can't say I'm comfortable giving an authoritative one-size-fits-all recommendation. All I can confidently say is, like most things in life, there's a trade-off. But Gintama also has a lucrative payoff. Now, as to whether or not that particular payoff is worth it for you, is frankly not for me to decide. So in the end, what I'm trying to say is, you should probably go and decide for yourself. Before I go, you may have noticed that the Benizakura arc also has its own movie adaptation, and you might be wondering which version to go for. I find the original series to have a better pacing compared to the movie, which feels a bit rushed at times, but that might be because I had already watched the original version prior. The movie has a better production value and is rendered in the 16:9 format, in case you really can't stand watching stuff that's in a 4:3 aspect ratio anymore. So again, there's a trade-off, but in this case, I think they both leveled out evenly to the point that it doesn't really matter for which version you go for. And with that, folks, thank you all for watching, and see you next time.